So today we're going to talk about the role of a well-implemented data mesh in achieving your ESG responsibilities. My name's Tandon, and I'm Product Marketing Director for Denodo. So if you want to come and talk further afterwards, we've got a booth over there. I think it's booth number 510, but I'll bring that back up at the end as well. Last week, I was writing the presentation, and I do Dilbert every morning. So the first thing I do when I get my cup of tea and kick off my day's work is I take a 10-second look at Dilbert. So I thought I'd collate all of the cartoons from last week on Dilbert. It's a topic that's very much in the heart and minds of everybody today. So without too further ado, we're going to click through the presentation, but I thought that was quite a good starting point. Dilbert.com, if you don't do it, it's funny. Very quick, brief helicopter overview of Denodo, who we are, what we do, and where we come from. So we are a leader in data management, data integration, and data delivery. We've been acknowledged by all of the leading industry analysts, so the Gartners of this world, the Forresters of this world, and actually earlier this afternoon I was talking to Carsten Bang, who's the CEO of Bark Research, who are based in Germany. So we don't just work with people from the United States. Mike Ferguson and us, we do stuff together as well. So Mike is the chair of Big Data London. We've real global company, about 600 employees. We've got 25 offices in 20 countries. We've counted 1,000 plus customers, and most of these customers are in what I classify the enterprise space. So they're the top Fortune 500, Global 2000, FTSE companies that we all know and love. We work a lot with our partners and our channels. So we have 300 active partners, and they range from everything from AWS through to boutique data consultancies, all providing services into our customer base. We have a lot of integrations as well with a lot of the people and the folks around that you'll see. So Solidatus over in the other corner, to name just one, and Dremio, and all sorts of people. Snowflake. Financially very stable. Typically we've been showing a 50% annual growth. We were founded all the way back in 1999 and have been growing ever since. So let's just set the scene about data fabric and data mesh, because there's been a lot of talk today and I'm in the data mesh theatre. So let me explain what I mean by data fabric and what we mean by data mesh. I hope some people were here yesterday and listened to what Zamak Dagani had to say. I think it really, she was the thought behind data mesh. For me, data mesh is all about the means versus the end. So the data fabric provides you with that architectural layer that allows you to create your data mesh. It's nothing more complex than that, nothing more simple than that. So it's the means versus the end. So the Denodo platform is the logical data platform for all your data needs. And in the heart of everything we do, we're powered by data virtualization. So data virtualization provides that abstraction layer across your disparate data sources to present one single unified view. And we'll get on to why that's important from an environmental perspective later on in the presentation. So we integrate with pretty much any data source you could ever think of. We've certified over 150 to 175 different data sources. We don't care where they are. So we can be in hybrid cloud, multi-cloud, single cloud, on-premise. We have examples of all of those within our customer base. All sorts of files, flat files, cubes, no SQL, cloud stores, relational databases, which allows you to manage. So we have the management layer, dynamic query optimization, and that's what we got known for back in the day. So irrespective of what your data source is, we can optimize your query execution. And if you're really interested in that, do call by. Gary Pemberton, my colleague, is demonstrating Denodo at work and illustrating how fast the query execute. So he's at the booth ready to give demos. We have a lot of AI and ML built into the system, including our recommendations engine. From a data democratization and data citizens perspective, that really helps you by presenting to you that Netflixy kind of experience. If you've looked at this data set, why don't you look at another data set based on your experience and your knowledge and your role within the organization? Mentioned about the hybrid multi-cloud, a unified security governance layer. And all of this has got advanced semantics capabilities built into it. And then finally, we look at the delivery capabilities of Denodo. You have the data catalog, which is the user interface designed for businesses. So business user interface to access and look into your data. We have the integration with all of your major BI tools, so the Tableaus of this world, the Clicks, presented through either certified integrations or structured query language, SQL. Data science tools as well are integrated, as well as presenting APIs through RESTful API, OData, GraphQL or GeoJSON. And this helps you democratize all of your data. And I apologize if I cough a little bit. I've got a small cold coming on. I have tested, I'm safe. So it's 2022, you have to say that if you cough. So the role of data virtualization in a data mesh. Really, it allows you to create the data products in a very easy fashion. So a modern data virtualization tool like Denodo allows you access to that underlying data system and provides the advanced data modeling capabilities. So that's really one of the key aspects of data virtualization for you when you're looking at it from a data mesh perspective. It maintains the autonomy of the domains. So again, you're sitting in the data mesh theater, so I'm going to guess you all understand what a data mesh is. We will show you it in a few minutes in a bit more detail. But the autonomy of the domains is really essential in terms of the whole process of the concept. So you can leverage centralized stores when they are the best, and they use the centralized data lakes for machine learning use cases. The domains can also autonomously decide to evolve their data infrastructure for specific needs. It provides the self-service capabilities, and I touched on the Denodo data catalog and these self-service capabilities, and that for me is the next step in data understanding, democratization. And we've heard a lot about it, probably for the last 5 or 7 years, but we haven't all embraced it yet. And really the data mesh epitomizes that concept of democratization of data, but in a structured manner. So the data catalog allows you to easily discover the data. It generates the documentation of data products, and that means that you can use standard APIs to access them. It enables federated computational governance, and that sounds great, doesn't it? It just sounds so technical. Federated computational governance. But what we really are talking about there is having that single unified governance layer across the entirety of your data assets through one environment. So we have to really think about this now in 2021-2 and into 2023, 4 and 5. Governance is essential, particularly if you democratize data. And this has possibly been one of the reasons why people have been reluctant to democratize their data, because they fear that they'll be letting go of some of the governance. So by providing that unified single governance layer, integrated with your security policies, and having facilities within the Denodo capabilities to do things like masking, obfuscation, and being able to get that down to a role or even individual column level is important and a very essential part of the Denodo platform. So the data virtualization is the foundation for logical and distributed architectures. So we mentioned at the beginning about the fact that data fabric versus data mesh. I don't see it as the versus, I see it as enable. Data fabric enables your data mesh. And really the data virtualization layer allows you to do 6 key things. We have the data abstraction, we have the real-time data integration, we have the smart query acceleration, unified security and governance, and then your advanced semantics and automated recommendations. 6 use cases we see most often, but these are not the only 8 use cases, you can't count. We see most often. These are not the only ones, but we see a lot of our customers enabling hybrid multi-cloud data integration. We see a lot of reduction in data replication. The self-service and the data science are key to our users. Lakehouse is analytics query optimization acceleration. So if you've ever implemented a data lake or a lakehouse, you know one of the big problems is they're not very efficient because it's unstructured data at executing queries. However, if you have a virtualized structure around your data, you can execute those queries in significantly faster time. And again, if you do want to see that, Gary's happy to show it you. Enterprise data services, and then the 360-degree view of entities. And that used to always be talked about, the 360-degree view of the customer, but it actually goes beyond that. And we have customers who are using it in things like 360-degree view of their supply chain, as well as the customer. So the one logical platform for all your data and all your data needs. Logically integrate, manage, and deliver your distributed data. Here we're going to talk about the steps in building a data mesh using data virtualization. So initially you have your domains, and in this example we have 3 domains. We have the common domain, the event domain, and the human resources domain. And each domain is given a separate virtual schema, because the data sources are different, so the schema will be different, and that's fine, and you may have a unifying schema across all of them. And the common domain may be useful to create the centralized data products, so you can see that concept. They connect to the data sources. We've mentioned data virtualization and how it works across your enterprise. So you may have Hadoop, you may have files, you may have an enterprise data warehouse, operational databases. It doesn't really matter. We don't really care about your data sources, but we care about having connectivity. The metadata is mapped into relational views. No data is replicated unless you need to. And we can do data replication, but we try and avoid it. And I'll talk in a few seconds about why data replication can be a bad thing. But sometimes it can be a good thing. So it's not that we can't do it, it's just it's done under caution. The domains can model the data products, and the products can be used to define other products. Very classic in terms of what we talk about in terms, for a data mesh. And for execution, the products can be served directly from the sources or replicated to a central location. A central team can set the governance, and I mentioned that earlier. This is one of the things that has held us back from democratization. But if you actually provide that central governance layer across and have your central governance team in place, you should be safe to democratize your data. Products can be accessed via standard SQL, APIs, or any of the other techniques that I mentioned in the earlier slides. And then the infrastructure can be easily scaled up and scaled down as necessary. And this for me is also very important. So when you're working with, say, AWS or Azure, one of the cost implications with working with them is the amount of compute power you're taking, as well as the storage space. Using our AI capabilities, we can predict when you may need to have additional compute and scale up accordingly, or occasionally scale down as you may be going through a lull. And this in BI and analytics is so normal. How many times do you have to run a monthly report? How many times do you, well, I can tell you how many times, that's 12 times a year. And once a year, you'll have to run the annual report. Lloyd's laughing at that one. And weekly reports and ad hoc reports. So you get the idea. So you all came and been very patient, and now we can talk about the environmental side of it and the environmental impact. I just wanted to set the scene about what we were doing, who we were. So some interesting facts. And this really, I was thinking about this, and I wrote a blog article, and you can go to our website and take a read of it. It takes about 4 or 5 minutes, but you all have heard of all the content, so you don't need to. So it was really at the beginning of the crisis, the energy crisis, and I'm a bit of an environmentalist. I drive an electric car, I'm putting solar panels on my roof, but it's not mainly environmental reasons, it's more financial. So how much energy is used to do things? And I'm reading various papers, and one of the things that came to my mind was Bitcoin. Bitcoin mining consumes roughly 0.5% of all of the energy worldwide. There's a year old, that study, but 5%. To put that into context, that's the same amount of energy as Malaysia, a rather large country. And quite developed. It's not that the Malays don't have devices and don't, use energy. They certainly do. I've been there many times. It's a very developed country. So And then we look at it again and we look at IDC. And IDC predict that 400% rise in the global data sphere between last year and 2025. They also state that 90% of data in existence is a replication. It's a replicant. It's replicated data. 90% of the data in existence is a replication. So what impact is that having? Some more figures. 175 zettabytes of data. The global data sphere is going to grow from 33 zettabytes in 2018 to 175. Before anybody asks me, all I know is a zettabyte is very big, and going from 33 to 175 is a huge leap. So, you know, you can't, these are figures that you can't get in your mind. Another interesting one was 30% in 2025, nearly 30% of all the world's data will need real-time processing because of edge computing. So again, think about that. Environmental needs, if you're growing at that exponential pace. And then the 2017 Stanford article was quite interesting. Yes, between 3 and 7 kilowatts of electricity is used per gigabyte. But that's actually not too bad. Cloud storage is infinitely more efficient than local data center storage. So again, it's still scary. So we went across our customer base and talked to a few of our customers and said to them, so what do you guys do and how are you managing it? Few customer reference points. There are some others that haven't made it onto the screen, but certainly I've got colleagues in the room from our sales team, Lloyd sitting halfway back there. Lloyd and I were in South Africa recently and we were talking to our customers in South Africa, and they have an even worse situation in terms of energy, in that they have to do this load sharing or load balancing. Because their grid is so overpowered, things get shut down and you have to manage that whole process. So they are really at the forefront of cloud computing, cloud migration, because actually nobody takes Amazon out. And a lot of the big banks and that there have realized that's more efficient, a much easier way, and it's probably more secure than they were doing previously. So there's an article I wrote on data virtualization blog on that topic last month. So the real use cases, this was one of my favorites, Landsbanking. So they are the ESG best risk ratings amongst European banks. And he has to remember how to say that. So they're Iceland's largest bank. They've got about 40% market share, 33% in the corporate banking sector. They're essentially Iceland's biggest bank. And that's the easiest way of describing them. They are really top on consumer satisfaction. So that ESG rating for them is everything. And this is very much a Scandinavian thing, trying to make sure that what you do is good for the planet. Maybe we ought to take a lesson or two from them, but we can have discussions over beers about that later. And then here we have some more of our customers. ABSA were one of the customers we met with in South Africa who moved everything to the cloud because of the environmental needs that they face. Some of the others are using, so I think, have I got St James's Place up there? Yes, St James's Place. They're an investment house here in London, and they have very much a need to do environmental impact analysis of all of their portfolios that they put out there to their investors. So the integration into the ESG sources across the data virtualization platform allows them to do that reporting. And very similar discussions we have had with the likes of Seacoast Bank in the US and with CIT, then Santander is in Spain. So they're all doing those sort of similar type of things. So in conclusion, the energy costs associated with cloud data storage are high, but data virtualization can minimize these. ESG regulations are complex, and having an accurate view across your organization is essential for compliance. And then finally, real-time data integration is more and more important as discussed by IDC. And DV, or data virtualization, really does allow organizations to integrate, manage and deliver data in real time across multiple data sources in any location, in any format. So I did leave some time for questions, if anybody's got any. Sure. The mic's coming over.
There you go.
That was great. Thank you so much. Quick question. In terms of your clients, obviously data mesh is looking like it's something that people are kind of gravitating towards and looking to do. ESG is equally becoming a top priority for C-suite executives. How are you managing that conversation? Which one's coming up more? Is it a case of needing to kind of get their data to a better place, or actually they need to be able to prove the ESG that they are taking seriously?
I think if talk about data mesh, it's the flavor of the month. And I don't mean this in a bad way, but people are realizing the importance of data mesh, the democratization of data. In terms of the ESG conversation, this is early doors. We're not having that many ESG conversations in the UK. However, the big however is I was in our Paris office 3 weeks ago, and they are having those conversations because there are a lot of European requirements and regulations coming in that are necessitating it. So yeah, here, as we know, Europe's a bad word, maybe. So anybody else, any other questions? Alrighty. No more, it's fine. So do come across, visit our booth 520. You can pick up a free copy of Data Virtualization for Dummies. Great book, great read. Only about 60 pages, so not too bad. Gary's there ready to do demonstrations, and it's really powerful what you'll see with Gary. Lloyd and his colleagues are there to have meaningful business conversations if you've got requirements and needs. So thank you very much for coming. I do appreciate your time, and I look forward to welcoming you to the booth in a few minutes' time.